Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. Uh, it is Saturday morning, October 25th, and a little after 10 a.m. Just just so everybody know, I usually if I'm opening us up, I try to start about 3 minutes after, okay? 2 or 3 minutes after. So if anybody, if you guys ever getting on late or something, just keep that in mind, okay? Uh, how was your week? Any questions and or comments about anything we've discussed in the past? Anything you may have heard? Had something interesting happen this week. I had someone ask me about star travel and the Dogon and space stuff. And I asked him where he had heard it because this is a guy who's traditional church person, and he just said it comes up on his news feed. He sees stuff now, and it's interesting to him. And I just thought that was interesting, that because it surprised me that it's stuff that he'd be interested in. But so a lot of stuff is going on, and all agitation, all busyness is not bad stuff. So. Uh, I just thought that was interesting. But what about you? Any thoughts or questions that you may have from your week?
Ron.
Yes, sir.
The probably I think maybe what he was referencing was the three eye atlas uh,
Okay.
that they thought was a comet at first, but now reputable people from all over the world are saying that it is not a comet. A comet. It is a vehicle, a vessel, and they don't understand the movement of it because of the speed of it and the heat signatures
Yeah.
that are inside of it because they thought it was solid through and through, but it is hollow in the interior, and they were picking up heat signatures from it that they don't understand. Um, I've listened to that from some physicists and quite a few other people, and that may be what they were referencing when they talked about um, the idea of coming from outer space.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think this three eye atlas is a phenomenon that has caught the attention of world leaders based upon the articles, the various articles, I should say, that I read in reference to that.
So what are your thoughts on it?
Um, my thoughts are probably out of this world, pun intended. Uh, I believe that if indeed it is a vessel, and I don't dispute that at all, because forever and a day, I never felt like we were in this universe um, alone, the only beings.
Hmm.
I never felt like that, but I didn't understand why. And then when I read about the Dogon, that sealed the deal for me as to whether or not we are in this universe alone. Um,
Before y'all go further, may I interrupt? Could you explain what the Dogon is, Sage?
the Dogons are a group of people in Africa who said that they came from Sirius 2 and or Sirius B, and they they were disputed. There were those who disputed that, saying that it was impossible because there was no Sirius B. And when they meeting those people who searched the skies looking for whatever, saw that there indeed was a Sirius B or Sirius 2. Then they began to ask themselves, how could they know that? And they've never answered, they've never given an answer. And the Dogon simply says that that's where we came from. So they are a group of African people. I forget the area of Africa that they live in.
Thank you.
Mali.
Mali. Thank you, George. And it's interesting to me that here we are now with another phenomenon, and it is said that when it comes from behind the sun, where it is now, it will come out of the sun at the angle of the peak of Giza, the pyramid. I believe that it is highly probable that it is a vessel. I believe that. Does it bother me? Not at all. It does not bother me one iota. One of the authors talked about the Space Force and NASA have set up defenses because they believe that it may be hostile. What kind of defenses you gonna set up for something that runs 130,000 miles an hour? How you gonna defend against that? That's stupid. And that sounds like something that, the U.S. would say, because we think we got a weapon for everything. But that's how I feel about it. That is real. And again, it doesn't bother me. I welcome it, to be honest with you. I hope they send a probe out and stop at my house and have a conversation. I'm serious. It doesn't bother me. I welcome it.
Your neighbor might take a shot at them.
Well, even if I didn't welcome it, right? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
What is anyone going to do? But I do believe it's real.
What if I remember when we start seeing different comets and asteroids and stuff happening, and people, all they could say is, well, this hasn't happened in X amount of years, thousands of years, or whatever. Then we start talking about other things like planets lining up and age of Aquarius and different things. What if the desire and the inquiries of truth is what brought all of this about, and even bringing in things that are not explainable? What if all of this is done because of these discussions that are changing the lining of the universe, or
Oh, I believe it.
you know,
I believe that. I believe that.
all things being connected? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that. Think about this. Why is it that the U.S. government has blocked off entrance to a certain portion of the Grand Canyon? Because there are hieroglyphics in a cave in the Grand Canyon. He calls it a cave anyway, but it looks more like it was a city because it will house thousands of people, and there is a Sphinx there, and on the walls of and on the writings, the hieroglyphics on the Sphinx said that Atlantis was between the two Sphinx, and one Sphinx is in Kemet, and one is in the Grand Canyon, in front of a temple dedicated to Isis. And when they looked at the positioning of the Sphinx in the Grand Canyon and the one in Kemet, the passage, the line that connected them goes through the Bermuda Triangle, where Atlantis is supposed to have existed.
Hmm.
It's too many coincidences for me not to believe it.
Yeah.
Um, Anything that the U.S. government hides from you is something that you need to know. And the Smithsonian team are the ones who found it, but they say that they meaning the U.S. government says that they don't want you flying over the canyon in that section because they don't want to disturb the wildlife, and to travel through it is too dangerous. But that's crazy. I mean, it's dangerous to climb a mountain. It's more dangerous to go skiing than it is to walk through the Grand Canyon. So none of it makes sense to me. What I have deemed, and this is me personally, whatever the Europeans tell me, I believe the opposite. I was done.
Right.
Nick,
Hey everyone. I agree. And well, I would say there is much more that is out there to be experienced that has been part of my experience as well, which I've not really, been explicit about, but um, as it relates to these kinds of things, one of the things I would like to do is in person talk about a lot of this stuff. And I had not known if you Pastor Rich had already decided if you wanted to do something for 11/11 or any other future teachers meeting, but actually I would like it to be open to anyone who is able to attend in person. But is yeah, include in my conversation these kinds of things as it relates to extraterrestrials, as it relates to all this stuff. I would like to do that. And if we can't do it in person, I'll do a Zoom presentation or something. But I want to do it in person because there's all kind of videos and stuff like that I would like to present as well.
I'll see if we can make that happen.
But I will say, oh yeah, I've heard of the Three Eye Atlas. I don't have a problem with it just being a comet, though I do think these kinds of things are directly connected to extraterrestrials, but for like in a variety of ways. But I will say there are much more direct and very unambiguous contexts with these kinds of beings that we have had, that I have had, me personally. And that's something I want to speak about because the importance of it is that it relates to the overall sort of spiritual and metaphysical nature of reality and what is being revealed faster and faster if you are, paying attention to occasionally what gets presented to Congress nowadays in the last few years and increasingly. And and the proverbial they, once again, are trying to set it up as a threat.
Yeah.
They are trying to present it in the mainstream as a threat. And the vast majority of it is not at all. It's just like Pastor Richard said, this thing is going 100-something thousand miles an hour. Like, if it was a threat, we would be done. We would be gone. It would, huh? But there's things like that don't make sense, and virtually none of the idea that extraterrestrials are a threat and there's something that we need to like try to fight. None of those arguments make any sense. Not a single one of them. But that is how it will be presented by this sort of the proverbial they, the intelligence slash Illuminati, to be slightly facetious, state. They will present it that way in order to elicit the sort of fear-based response from the general population that they want. But I sort of don't think it's going to work. They're going to present it that way, and it is going to increasingly be a part of the news cycle in the very near future, and it already sort of has been if you've been paying attention. But anyway, that is one thing I want to address. I want to address a variety of other topics, but I also want to talk about that and try to bring it all within the context of what we've been talking about and dealing with in terms of spirituality and the greater reality that we are collectively becoming more aware of. So it can, doesn't have to be necessarily on 11/11, but I would like to do that at some point before the end of the year, if possible.
I'll talk with you later on about it.
Sure.
Okay. Barbara?
Just to comment on, add to what you all have been talking about. What's being created right now is this atmosphere, this environment of fear anyway, whether it's fear of not having enough food, fear of not having enough money, fear of not having a job, fear of not being able to pay your bills, etc. And so this creation of fear among the populace, and not necessarily just in the United States, but all over, invites more of the authoritarianism that's already around, because then people who fear will be looking for saviors, and those saviors are going to present themselves as these authoritarians that I can fix this problem, I'll take care of blah blah blah. And so that's why it's so important that those of us who are awake don't give in to this fear. And we're going to have to stand in the gap, in a sense, as we are doing now, for those who do fear, create that hedge around them, so that this is not something that takes over like a what do you call like a global-demic kind of thing. So it's so important for us to keep focused and to don't let fear creep in, regardless of what the story is or what the storyline is or what we're told about this or anything else.
I agree with you, Barbara, that we do have to toe the line, especially when it comes to that, because being the vanguard means that we have to have the sensitivity to know what's happening around us. And when I say around us, I'm not talking about only America. I'm talking about the world. America is indeed the head of the snake. And I don't mean it in Kundalini terms either, but America is the head of the snake, and we live in the place in this earth that controls and manipulates everything else around the world. So it's up to us to defang the serpent and render it harmless. And we can't do that if we get caught up in fear. We'd be blinded by fear. And when you know that you are Elohim, then the age-old question is answered. Is there anything too hard for God? If you know who you are, there's nothing too difficult for you to accomplish. Even the courage that it takes to face the dilemma, the perceived dilemma that the world is in. I don't see it as disorder. I see it as being ordered. the disorder was taking place before we started this journey. It's being ordered now. So the things that were arrayed in a manner that was disorderly is no longer there, it's fallen apart. And one of the symbols of the crumbling of it is the self-destruction is the destruction of the West Wing, or the East Wing at the White House. That's more than just a ballroom being constructed there. It's more involved than that. So I just believe we're in the right place at the right time.
Pastor, that reminds me of what Hitler did when he created that huge amphitheater. It wasn't an amphitheater, but it was a huge, colossal construction that he said that was a symbol for the arts. That's what Trump is doing. He's putting his sphinx, if you will, his finger on Washington and the world.
And yeah, isn't there something that after we reclaim the power, the energy from those places, now that the East Wing is being torn down, and mind you, it's the East Wing that's being torn down. There's so many.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, there are so many things that was involved in that are totally spiritual. When you compare it to Hitler, the only thing we're saying is that the same energy exists that existed then. The difference between this person who is presented himself without saying it as Hitler, the difference is that Hitler was smart. That's the biggest difference. And this one is doing the opposite, because the first thing Hitler did was end interest rates, because he saw interest rates as price gouging. So there are a lot of things there that are opposites, but at the same time, the same energy. So I see that very clearly, especially these detention centers that are being built, and they are building them in every region of this country. And these are not detention centers for Hispanics. These are concentration camps for us. There's no doubt in my mind. Why is it that you need detention centers all over the country for Hispanics or for people who are being deported? This is the rise of concentration camps. I see it all over. But we have to stay focused. If everything the Neanderthal mind says or does, if you're afraid of it, then we have to contend that you don't believe you are who you say you believe you are. And there are so many things that during the course of this week, I looked at a video, Dante Cowell, I think her name is, and she had questions, raised some questions, and I also have my own questions stemming from that about this whole concept of who we are and how we got to be who we are. I know all of us have heard that when we venerate our ancestors, we've been told that that's demonic. Have we not? And these are not rhetorical questions. We have been told that that is demonic to recognize ancestors. If it is demonic for us to recognize or to venerate our ancestors, then how can that be demonic? The only way that can be demonic is that if you buy into that, you are subliminally or subconsciously saying that those, your mama, your grandmama, your granddaddy, your children are demons. Or you're saying that you're the demon if you embrace that. So those are the kinds of things that Christianity has given us, and we bought into it without even thinking about it. So are we afraid or are we ashamed to speak favorably about our ancestors? We have so much to learn about the scriptures. And when I say that, I'm talking about learning the truth of the scriptures. So I think all of this is a part of understanding the scriptures is a part of where we are now. And I think I don't think I know the answers are in the scriptures. But the understanding of the scriptures do not come from the concordance. The words may, but the understanding doesn't. And most of you who use the concordance know that you can look up every word in there and still can't put it together. So what am I saying? I am saying that when we talk about Jesus' essence, when we talk about the essence of others in the scriptures, what are we talking about? We're talking about spirituality. We are not talking about individual people who played a role in the Bible. We are talking about the spiritual essence of who we are, and we're being shown what will happen if we don't understand who we are. An example of that would be the struggle that we have with this man Jesus. And another example is Samson. Why is it that Samson, what does it mean, rather, for Samson to have torn down the temple and came as a result of female Delilah taking his energy away from him, or taking his strength away from him? What does all of that mean? When we understand things like that, and of course many others, then we'll begin to more see who we are in a greater depth and see that the scriptures are talking about what's happening now. This is what I'm saying. Everything that's happening now has been happening over and over again for the last 500, 600, 700 years. Every bit of it, over and over again. It simply is taking place in a material environment that did not exist 100 years ago or 400 years ago. But the same thing is taking place over and over again. And right now, the destruction that's taking place, if we look at it through the eye, we will actually see it as construction as opposed to destruction, because the desire for balance, the desire for unicity among humanity is there, no question. And this is not the result of the desire, the destruction, the deconstruction. The construction is the desire. More and more people are beginning to see that they are caught up in a vortex of criminality, of racism, of all the other isms that they were unable to see or decided they didn't want to see it before. And the only reason that they are able to see it now is because they are caught up in the vortex. They are losing their privileges that they had. They are experiencing the things that we have been experiencing all of our lives. And by virtue of our embracing it as a constructive thing, we are moving closer and closer to the balance that we have been desiring. We're moving closer to the manifestation of it. And fear actually blocks the movement of not only truth, but also the advantageous movement of spirituality. And you say, how, if I'm God, how can it block? How can fear block the movement of block your movement towards what? Balance. How can it happen if I'm God? First of all, if you God, and you know, if you know you're God, when that fear arises, you dispel it. Because that fear is not coming from your Elohim, the nature of Elohim. That fear is coming from what you see with your eyes and what you hear with your ears, as opposed to the third eye and the third ear. So we need to do a self-examination in order to be continuously aware of who we are. We cannot allow fear, we cannot allow ourselves to focus on fear, anger, or desire. I'm sorry, fear, anger, or hate. We cannot allow ourselves to focus on, to linger on those things. We cannot allow those things. And would you mute your phone, please, to enter our thoughts, and we allow them to change our. Would you mute your phone? Hello, 795. Would you mute your phone, please? Okay. I'm done. Questions?
Pastor, I have a question,
Uh-huh.
and this isn't, this is pertaining to the ancestors. Since we've been talking about the ancestors, I've been wanting to spend more time with them consciously, because I think I do that anyway, and just, haven't been, giving reverence to them or honoring them. But, and again, honor to the ancestors, sorry about that. But what is the ancestors' role? How is it when we sit with them? I know you said just be still and know, but what are their roles? What are their roles?
They are messengers. They are the ones who guide us spiritually, because we're so inundated with the world that we live in, and we have been indoctrinated to embrace a scripture belief that is to our detriment. So as we are unfolding the things that are lies, we are being guided by the ancestors. And one of the things that this young lady talked about, well, one of the questions I raised is that if the slave master and the slave was praying to the same God, then whose prayers were being answered? The slave master's prayers were being answered. So what does that tell me? That tells me either the God that created us is vicious and racist, or it means that the God that the slave master and I were praying to is one that was invented by the slave master. So the ancestors show us, or are showing us, what? The fallacies of what we have been taught as to believe in terms of Christianity. Is showing us that everything that we were being taught in regards to Christianity has been detrimental to us and beneficial to the enslaver. Does that help so far, Evelyn?
Yes, sir. And they also guide us as well, right? Because I feel a lot of times that they're speaking to us and we don't slow down to listen or be still to listen long enough to them. So, yeah, that makes sense.
The thing is this, Evelyn, ancestors been speaking to us forever and a day. We just have not been paying any attention because that was demonic to say that the ancestors. So what do we say of Black people? My mama showed up, saw my mama last night in a vision. Or we say things like, something told me not to go that way, rather than acknowledge that it's the ancestors that guided us. We said in such different ways to protect ourselves against being labeled as demonic. So anyway, when it comes to ancestors, right now, I guarantee you that there are people within the confines of this group who talks, who meets, who discuss things Saturday, Sunday, Monday, that are uncomfortable. I believe that there are those who are uncomfortable with this idea of listening and being guided by the ancestors, because we are caught up on getting answers from God. Jesus is the answer to everything. We are caught up in that. And subconsciously, we got to have some divinity that has been presented to us by the enslaver. We have to justify what we are hearing and how we're being guided. And we have been justifying it that following in the footsteps of Jesus or following in the footsteps of the Lord, as opposed to embracing something that's been with us for hundreds of thousands of years, and that is being guided by ancestors, as opposed to us having been outside of the realm of spirituality and being heathens who embrace demonic spirits. We have not really been totally purged of that. I don't know if we will ever be totally purged, but we should by now at least be purged to the extent that we don't have to question anymore the guidance, and we don't have to question anymore the idea of praying to God, because there is nothing in the scripture that admonishes us to pray. It talks about meditation as because we are in this material world, we have to silence ourselves and meditate, or during the course of meditation, because there are so many distractions that we encounter every single day. And if we don't take this time to meditate, then our spiritual ear does not become sharper when we are being guided by the ancestors. This idea of praying, like this young lady said on the video, I think it was her, it was, who said that we talk about speaking in tongues, but when our elders, or when in my words, not hers, when our spiritual leadership is speaking in, and we don't understand what they're saying when they are conversing with the ancestors, we call that demonic. But speaking in tongues is not demonic, because white people say it's not demonic, basically. So everything that we believe about us and the scriptures, we have received it from someone, a mindset that has never had our best interests at heart, and still doesn't. I'm done.
Pastor, I have a question. If Evelyn is satisfied, if you're finished with her.
Yes, I'm done. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Evelyn. Based on what Evelyn's question and everything you just said, did religion replace communing with ancestors and understanding ancestors with this? Because especially the charismatic movement, did they replace our relationship with ancestors and give us, quote unquote, angels and this appearance of angels, and telling us that we are seeing angels or we are spending time with angels as opposed to communing with ancestors? Did they try to replace it with angels?
Yes, they did. Being too ignorant to understand that angel is not a being, it's a message. And what we've been doing is receiving messages from the ancestors. And we have seen angels with wings, little chubby, red cheek white boy, as it appears in the Sistine Chapel. And in actuality, if you read the story of Michelangelo painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel and putting that quote unquote angel in there, it was mockery. It was a type of mockery to the Catholic Church, because he didn't want to do it. They forced him to do that. So it had nothing to do with spirituality at all. But we bought into it because that's what the white people said. They took our ancestors and made them angels. Yes, they did. And that is disrespect to our ancestors. But they have forgiven us even before we asked for it, because they understand the deception that we have been forced to embrace for as long as we've been in the presence of that European mindset. Does that help, Kathy?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Grand Rising, everybody. I just have a quick observation. And I think you're right about the fact that, they gave us the religion that they created, which in general is not really the religion of the Bible. It just, it, it really, I can't even wrap my mind around the fact that the current Christian religion today is not even the religion of the Bible. But what I was going to say is that even the Bible talks about ancestors, and they revered ancestors in the Old Testament. Look at Genesis. There's a whole thing of the generations and who was who and all of that. Even in the Bible, Jesus is asked, is he Moses or is he Elijah? You know, that's revering ancestors. So I think they just created it to kind of cut us off spiritually. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
I agree with you 100%. When what this guy Mpongo says that when money and religion comes together, you end up with a detrimental political system. The most dangerous thing is for religion to have money, and because that money is used to manipulate everything else, and we call that everything else that's been manipulated politics. And maybe one day we'll talk about the fallacy of not only Christianity but democracy, because democracy, there's no such thing as a democracy. The idea of a democracy is a joke. There's nothing in this country or on this earth that's democratic in terms of being a democracy. It's only a capitalist system that creates poverty so it can remain rich. That's it. No democracy. George.
Yeah, Grand Rising, everyone. I appreciate the enlightenment that we've had thus far, and I just wanted to just share with regards to Evelyn's comment about our ancestors or communing with them. About a month ago, I had a visitation from my great grandmother, and I thought about that in terms of, what did that mean in terms of that visitation? And I know Barbara has mentioned all of us have had dreams, all of us have had encounters that maybe we may not talk about or feel no need to share, but I really wanted to share that this morning because, my great grandmother, I never met her, physically, but spiritually, she reached out to me in terms of just reassuring me that everything is okay. I'm watching. So when Pastor spoke about our third ear or our third eye, or looking at our third nostrils, or looking at the senses, that we have, that our ancestors are able to invisibly, speak to us, but at the same time, again, being able to just be reassured, that our ancestors are guiding us, as Evelyn had mentioned. And so, when I saw my great grandmother's face, I didn't see like her physical features in terms of her ears or anything. I just saw a perfect circle. A perfect circle. And I was trying to, well, what does that mean? And then, again, my thoughts at that time was looking at a perfect moon, the shape of a moon. But what was the experiences, giving me in a way that I can appreciate, knowing that, my ancestor is right there, or our ancestors are right there. So I think there's ways, or there's experiences that we all have, but I think being conscientious about it, in a way that we can see that we're not alone. We can see, that we are being watched over or cared for in that way, to help us in those times where fear may kick in. but to be reassured to know, that, I mean, that there's nothing new under the sun. And I think that that was shared a little bit earlier. So as we continue this journey, I thought about it, and again, in terms of just the conversation thus far, and when Ron spoke about the Dogons, and we look at the creation story of the Dogons, or we look at the astronomy, or look at all that, we have an opportunity to appreciate, what that 1111 talks about is, again, the importance of an energetic gateway being available to us, to you, and being able to see the the manifestations of that spiritual plane manifesting in a way that we can understand it better. So hopefully, those were my thoughts about my experience, with my great grandmother. I'm done, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, George. That go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, yeah, I not long after my grandmother on my mom's side passed away, I saw her. And it was I think I was spending the night in the house, before the funeral or something. But it was and this is something I want to mention in the thing I want to do in person, because it relates to the nature of the so-called afterlife, which is present here and now. But anyway, yeah, I saw her. I remember it was and this was not ambiguous at all. It was in the state of sort of half awake, half asleep. I was not fully awake. I was not fully asleep. And I was sleeping in the room. And in that state, I got up in my, the astral body. And I was it was a little hazy, but I was aware of sort of what was going on. And I saw her. She was in the room, sitting in a meditative, like cross-legged, her hands in her lap, directly in front of the door, like in the room, sitting on the floor in front of the door. And she was just looking at me, smiling. And I realized it was her a little bit later, because at first it was a younger woman, and I didn't recognize her face exactly. And then I remember later seeing a sort of black and white photo of a younger version of my grandmother, and I was like, oh, that was her. Like, I thought that was her, but now I confirmed it. But I bring that up because there is a very real reality to what we have access to in consciousness and realms of spirit that we can become aware of. And it is from those realms that the ancestors speak, that they can appear to us, etc., in various ways, in accordance with our own capacity to handle the situation, to handle what they want to present. And not only ancestors, but all kinds of things, which I want to speak about. But I bring that example up just to describe that it is a very real phenomena, as of course we've all heard about and believe, but it is real in a very tangible way that we may not necessarily be familiar with. But that has to do with meditation and awareness and consciousness, and being able to develop your capacity to experientially interface in a lucid, conscious way with the reality of the realms of spirit, or perhaps lack of a better term. Thank you.
This lady said that her grandmama never said good morning. And she said that every morning, her grandmother would say, "Welcome back." Because during the course of sleep, your spirit travels, and your spirit are attuned to things that your mind is not attuned to. So she would say, welcome back. Welcome back where? Welcome back from the realm of the spirit to this physical world, as opposed to saying good morning. And that made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And my memory of that, of having heard that, was triggered by what you guys are talking about in terms of great grandmama and grandmama. You can't say that. You can't even say that you're a Christian and not believe what Nick and George just talked about. You cannot, because the scripture is full of it. And when Audrey was talking about the ancestry, talking about ancestry in the Old Testament, all of it is spiritual.
Yep.
It's a spiritual journey. The scripture that Ron asked us to look at, the 32nd chapter of Exodus, Ron?
Yes, sir.
That particular scripture not only undergirds, but speak to the same thing that Audrey was talking about. We talk about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, not Jacob.
Yeah.
What is it saying? It's saying that ancestors represent things to us. Abram being us when we are focused on the things around us and caught up in religion. And when we get a glimpse of who we are, it becomes Abraham, meaning that now you are engaged rather in a search for the spiritual essence of who you are. And the Isaac speaks to the idea of laughter or doubt. And you struggle with that. Yeah, right. This is what I see spiritually. Yeah, right. It's like almost like we're saying sure, but we're saying it in a negative way. And when he speaks to Israel, it's saying you are going to go through these stages of in order to know who you are. You are going to deal with religion, and then you're going to recognize there's something more in depth that's called spirit. And then when you begin to look at it, because of your religious engagement, you are going to doubt what you're seeing, or you're going to sneer at it. However, when you have wrestled with this long enough, you will begin to understand that you are no longer Jacob, meaning somebody who takes somebody else's place through force. You're not that. You are Israel, because now you recognize that you are a spiritual being who rules as Elohim. That's what Audrey just talked about, the ancestry in the scriptures. So our ancestors are showing us something. When Nick talked about Miss Florence sitting on the floor in the door with her legs crossed meditating. Come on now, think of those of you who know Miss Florence or your grandmama sitting in a doorway meditating. That's a message from the ancestor. What's that? Is that message? Is it telling Nick to be in a continuous meditative state? Is it telling Nick that what we call prayer is actually meditation, but we've been doing it wrong? But through this thing called prayer? Because Miss Florence was a praying lady, no question about that. So was she sending a message to us? So our ancestors not only speak to us through the inaudible ear, But our ancestors also speak to us through actions, the things that we perceive when they are in our presence. As in the description that so many of us, George had, Nick had, and so many of us had, they are sending a message to us. The question is, are we willing to be still long enough, not only to understand the message, but to embrace it? And that's more important, to be embracing it than anything else. Does that make sense? No, I'm not going to actually, I know it makes sense. Is that clear?
It's clear. I like to speak to what they said. I think the thing that when Nick spoke that stood to me that I caught was Nick said she was sitting directly in front of the door. And that got my attention. It almost was like the meditation has to come before you enter into another place or exit this place, whatever. Get that part. But sitting in front of the door, I think, was part of the message. And maybe later he'll understand that part. The thing that George said that I like is I've had a similar experience where I had a dream about someone that I had never met, but I knew exactly who they were. And that is a kind of an awesome feeling. You know, you feel like you're part of something that is you, but it isn't you. And you're left there knowing that this is being done because of you. And you know, kind of absorbs you more than uh, more than trying to understand it. It's an experience more than something you understand, I guess what I'm saying. But just a neat feeling. Just something I just got out of what both of them said.
Thank you. Anyone else? Jacob. Why did Jacob's name have to be changed? When the scriptures talk about a name, it's talking about a character. For example, indigenous people don't use a name as a label as Europeans do, as we do, because we have been engaged with Europeans so long. A name represents character. And when you name a child, the indigenous names speaks to the character that you desire to see in the child as that child grows into adolescence and adulthood. So Jacob was not a label. It was a spiritual reality that physical people go through, not realizing that it is spiritual. And it is no different than us being engaged with religion and believing that only those with biblical experiences are spiritual people. And the way we express that is back in Bible days. Just like there are no Bible, this is not a period of the Bible. Jacob's name had to be changed because it is saying that you were born into environmental conditions that allow you to be able to justify taking from other people or replacing other people with by you injecting yourself into their life, or you taking from them, and you are able to justify it. I'm just a human. I made a mistake, but I'm human, and you go do the same thing again. So now you're wrestling with the message. Who am I for real? Who am I? And then you get to the place where you are indeed struggling with that message, which is called angel in the Bible. And finally, enlightenment comes, because it says that when daylight began to appear, the angel touched Jacob, meaning that the deceptive ways are revealed to us. And when we see those things that we need to purge from ourselves, we even struggle with that, meaning that we are crippled, but only for a period. We are crippled spiritually because we are caught up between religion and spirituality. And when we clearly see that we are Elohim, we embrace that, then we become Israel, meaning that we become the ones who rule as Elohim. And that is one of the reasons that in Exodus it says Abraham, Isaac, and Israel as opposed to Jacob. Because once your name, once your character has been changed and you have truly committed yourself to knowing the essence of who you are and embracing the creative divinity that you are, your character can never go back to what it was. If you playing the game, if you're vacillating, then you have never shedded the skin of being Jacob. You are still at that space where the angel, you're wrestling with the angel. That's that space where you see angels ascending and descending, meaning that you are having spiritual experiences because Jacob's ladder is actually the 33 vertebrae that's in our bodies, and this fluid that's called the Kundalini, this divine energy travels through those 33 vertebrae to the pineal gland. And that's the spiritual experience that we're having. But when you're wrestling with it, and it talks about the angels descending, it's talking about you seeing the value of spirituality, your spiritual nature, but you have difficulty holding on to that because of what's going on around you, and that energy descends, not so much as the physical descension as it is you not fully embracing or seeking to embrace totally the essence of the energy that makes you divine. You struggle with that, trying to stay in that space that was created for you or that you created, trying to hold on to both of them. And eventually, when that angel, when the daylight comes, when the enlightenment comes, and that angel leaves you crippled, that means that the message of enlightenment is there. And you are traveling this journey to embrace all of the light that's possible. And that is when you become the one who sets boundaries as God, as Elohim set boundaries, the one who is empowered to dominate the earth, the one who is empowered to bring divine change to the earth, the one who seeks to bring a mindset of divinity into the earth, the mindset that redeems us so that the earth itself can return to its original nature, and that is being a support system for humanity, as well as a invisible world for that spirituality. It is then that within you, as above, so is below, meaning that your primary focus, your primary journey is spiritual travel for the benefit of humanity. And when it becomes as above, so is below within you, that is when it begins to manifest itself in humanity. It is no different than what we are seeing when we put things in the macro. They begin to show up on news feeds or videos or in conversation from other people. They begin to become primary when you look at different media platforms. When we embrace as above, so is below, and that is who we are, and we hold on to that, then that's when humanity, especially the African, begins to see with its eye as opposed to its eyes, and begin to see that lighthouses around the world, the houses of enlightenment, are actually Africans in the diaspora. And being in different places on this globe, we become an outpost for the establishment of what was before and what is above. And that is a Kabbalon being the primary focus without even having to call that name or mention that name. We call it the presence and domination of righteousness, the principles of Ma'at, return to the mindset of Kemet, in understanding and embracing of the womb that brought all of us into existence. So when we embrace these names as spiritual messages, as opposed to applying physicality to them, that's the true journey in search of self. And as I said before, as above, so is below, doesn't manifest unless it manifests in you first. I'm done. Questions or comments? Is that clear?
Pastor, this is Angela. I have a question. I don't even know where to start, but we focus on Jacob and Jacob's experience that he had with the angel, and then going way back to when he stole, well, him and his mother. I know what you're talking about, but it's spiritual, but stole Esau's birthright. And it seemed like after that, Jacob had all these experiences within himself. I mean, well, within himself. And then you have Esau. It's kind of hard to. What I'm saying is Jacob more like the Neanderthal mindset, because he did take Esau's spiritual birthright, and then he when he wrestled with the angel, it's like what our ancestors have experienced up until today, where the Neanderthal mindset takes from our people and they change it. Do you see?
I see
I
what
know
you.
what I want to say.
I see where you're coming
Yeah,
from.
and we making him seem like he. When you were saying about the slave master, and the slave master, and somebody praying to the same, and you said the slave master creating. Well, it seems like Jacob is more an imposter.
Oh, baby. I said the slave master received, his prayer was answered. That's what I said. But
okay.
I understand the question that you're raising.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob and Esau is the same entity. They are one coin with two different sides. The idea that the birthright was stolen gives a negative spin to that. If Run is birthed, Run has an opportunity to be rebellious to his nature or his origin, or he can embrace the religion that speaks to his origin or that teaches him about an origin that didn't exist. Ron makes a decision that he's going to be Esau, and then he ends up being wild and crazy, doing anything and everything that is antithetical to what spirituality is. Or Ron can go into the church and be religious and embrace religion, believing that he's embracing spirituality. But during his stay in the midst of religion, Ron began to raise questions, not getting answers. And Ron started researching, started looking for, started actually begging to understand the more that he's searching for. So Ron leaves Achan, and the journey between Achan and his destination at that time is traveling through a wilderness. And in the midst of the travel, in search of understanding, Ron begins to wrestle with what he has been told and what he has seen, the reflection or has seen an inkling of truth. And he's wrestling with whether or not what he has been taught is spiritual, whether it's true or what he's being shown. The ancestors are guiding Ron to a reservoir of desire for understanding. And he begins to get a glimpse of enlightenment. And with that glimpse of what enlightenment is, during the wrestling match, he's up and down. He's wanting it, he sees it, but he cannot make sense of it. So he reverts to what he knows, and that's religion. And that's the message, the angels, the message traveling up and down the ladder. And the down portion is reverting to what he has been told the truth is. And finally, he gets to the place where he sincerely embraces this desire for truth, for understanding of self-awareness. And when that happens, now the journey is to understand being, what it means to be Elohim. Elohim setting boundaries, Elohim being the dominant energy source in the earth. And doing this wrestling, he finally realizes that he is Elohim and not Jacob, that he is not, that religion is not what he has been searching for, and it is the thing that has kept him blind to his true essence. And as a result of that blindness, he was on the borderline of stand with religion, or just dismissing the church and everything that is divine all at once. Just saying it doesn't make sense. But rather than that, he continued that journey, and now he is no longer Jacob. He is no longer one who takes another's place by force. He is now in a space of divinity where he understands what it means when the creator that created everything says dominate. He understands that that has nothing to do with physical domination of men, but is talking about a dominant mindset that brings into manifestation a truth that men are searching for and don't even know they're searching for it. Does that make sense? Or is that clear, Angela?
Yeah, it makes sense when you're looking at it as two different people. It's confusing, but when you look at it as just one, they're one and the same. It makes sense that they're on the journey to find themselves.
Yeah.
Find itself.
Yeah.
I have one more question. So when Jacob came, when Esau and Jacob met, so did that really seal it when they came?
That's,
you know what I mean.
The meeting is not a meeting as in two men meeting. It is the internal personalities or desires that you begin to see, and that you are shown the need for you to either continue to be that wild child, or when you are, let's say you're younger and you're a wild child, or you are going to the religion that you were taught as a child, meaning that you are coming back to a space that you were taught is a space of calmness that puts you on the track to heaven. You begin to see that, and that's what begins your journey to self-awareness. I hope that's clear, Angela.
Oh, it is. It is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if there's anyone who wants to speak to that, I'd be most appreciative.
Can I say something, Pastor?
Nope.
I was sitting here thinking, and I was thinking about, and when I like, far as the angels descending and descending, I was thinking about that's something that, like, when I think of them ascending, I think of them. You think of this as something that is taking place in us, and those are times that you raise your vibration, and you get closer to the Creator. You realize who you are, things like that, and those
Don, let me stop you right there.
things.
Don, let me stop you right there. It's not that we get closer to the Creator as much as we get closer to an awareness of self.
Yeah. And so what I was thinking was when they descend, and you don't recognize who you are just to stay up there. You know what I'm saying? You don't go up just to stay up there. Like, I used to joke with my friends, I would say, you got to get up to get down. So you go up, you go up, and then you descend to go into those low places that you need to raise the vibration in those areas of your life. And, like, you know, some people call that shadow work, going to the uncomfortable places that you don't want to deal with, things that you don't want to deal with. And then when I think about the two meetings, those are the times that you come face to face, and you have to have a reality check and say, okay, is this who I am versus who I try to be perceived as, or who I perceive myself as, or the things that I made up in my mind, the illusions that I made up in my mind of who I am versus who I really am. You get what I'm saying?
I do. I do indeed. I think that's an excellent way of putting it. Especially when you mentioned the idea of shadow work. Yes. Thank you. Ron?
I was just thinking of the dichotomy of religion, that image that it gives us, and he does not become comfortable with himself, meaning he does not become comfortable with the version of Esau that he is until he understands who he is, and he understands the aspect of, quote unquote, the Esau in him and why that had to be. And that's part of what brings him his balance. That journey is part of what brings him his balance, as well as for us. So part of our dichotomy, when we see things, we're looking externally. We're not looking internally and seeing who we truly are. And that's what kind of throws us out of kilter, as has been said, kind of lowers our vibrations.
Yeah.
It brings about fear.
And that's the whole idea of the divine fluid, the energy that flows through the vertebrae to the kingdom, which means that is what is written when the essence of deliverance, who's called Jesus, says, you look here and you look there in search of the kingdom, but the kingdom is you, not in you. It is you. And that is because of the what is deemed to be the Kundalini, the rising of the energy. And I see clearly all of this, what you guys are, the questions you're raising and the responses that you're giving based on the questions that are being raised. I see that clearly. Because Esau was considered to be a wild ass, like a wild donkey.
Mhm.
and that means that he's doing things that he should not have been doing, or the essence of that whole mindset is creating in the wrong direction, and it's a sense of stubbornness. You know what you need to do, but you won't do it. And then with the maturity, or you get to that place, or with pain, you get to that place where you start doing it, and that's the Jacob aspect of it, moving into a space of self-awareness. Audrey.
Sorry. I just wanted to know what is shadow work? Can somebody talk about that for a second?
Who want to talk about that? I guess it's Nick. He's off of mute.
Not just me, of course, but I can at least hopefully help introduce that. So that is a term that comes out of sort of, you might find the more new agey interpretations of spirituality. And it's not necessarily wrong, but it's not wrong necessarily, but it's just something that refers to a process by which you consciously deal with your own inner demons, your own inner traumas and negativity, etc., that you may uncover during the process of investigating the nature of your own self. And then you learn how to heal it and deal with it, and sort of cleanse it so you can release it. But it's a sort of a slightly vague term that you may hear associated associated with sort of new age interpretations of spirituality. Now, I have been very consistent in my dislike of the so-called new age hippie pop culture approach to spirituality and concepts. And that's not to say that what comes out of that is wrong, but it's just a general distaste for the sort of commodification of what spirituality is. But so shadow work is something that is a part of the natural spiritual process that is described in many other spiritual traditions, but that is the term that comes out of that sort of more new agey interpretation of it.
You know, Nick, the way the New Age comes from the same one who gave us Christianity.
Yeah.
So, and the shadow work is because those things that you need to deal with to purge yourself or to be healed from is hiding in the shadows. So you put in light, shining light on them.
Yes.
Okay, so it's recognizing and dealing with your own ish, as somebody puts it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly, because in most cases, the things that we perceive as negative traits or
Don't speak up,
trauma.
please.
Oh, okay. In most cases, the things that we look at as negative traits, trauma, things like that, we've been taught to suppress those things. You know, you like, especially in religion, you know, you don't want, like, if you're alcoholic, you're gonna try to hide it in religion. If you are a drug addict, you're gonna try to hide those things. You don't bring your baggage. You know what I mean? It's almost like your baggage, the things that you don't put in the light. You don't try to show those things off. And so, and when it comes to, you know, raising your awareness and expanding yourself, you know, you got to embrace the negative and the positive. And not saying it's something bad, because it's no good and bad. It's part of it. And the things we just tend to embrace the things, the happy, the all those traits of ourselves, and not the negative side. You know, like if you get angry and fly off the handle, that's something you need to embrace and figure out why you do that, and what in you causes you to do those things, instead of trying to suppress it, and or whatever it is about yourself that you don't want to touch or face. Hello, everyone. This is Sheldon. And Don, to your point, is actually worse. You barely even acknowledge any of those things, and you never actually deal with it because you're actually taught, as all of us have been to some extent, that whatever it is, we deny it and it is not good. And if we catch a hint of it that we think we have it, we are to put it in the Lord's hand and pray about it. And pray about it in that sense doesn't mean to meditate and work on it. Pray about it means, here, let me hand this over to Jesus. Let me hand this over to God, and they will fix it for me. I can just keep going on. And then you end up with essentially adults who are extremely religious and have been religious their entire lives, but then have what one might consider a very elementary thing that they could have easily worked past, but have always put to the side and been told to put to the side, and so never dealt with it. They do not, in a sense, develop or get to a place even to understand love and even loving themselves, because it's based on manipulation. And so if they don't have the relationship with themselves that have been taught, for example, that love is a certain thing, then it's really impossible to nurture that, in a sense, even as it relates to our relations with others, just in general. I'll finish.
Thank you. One of the things that lurks in the shadows that I don't believe that we give much thought to. We have been taught, as the lady says on the video, to love God, but it's not really loving God, because the reason that we are, as Christians, loving God is because we are afraid of going to hell. And that spills over into our interactions in life, period. One of the things that lurks in the shadows is the concept, the idea that we do things to keep others from being upset with us. And we find all kinds of ways to justify it. In areas of our life where we are seeing truth and we speak it doesn't matter whether people get upset with this or not. But it's just a little nuance, like at work or within your family, or you're within the confines of your friendships. You're doing things because we don't want people to be upset with us. If there is any point in our lives where we are doing things because you don't want to hear somebody's mouth, you don't want them to be upset with you, that is the very thing you should not be doing. And that, I can't even think, I can't even call it shadow work, because it's so deeply inside of us, ingrained in us, until it's actually is hiding in the darkness. It's not even as clear as the shadow is. It's so deeply ingrained until it's hiding in darkness, and that we must bring to the light. That is one of the major flaws that we have when it comes to self-awareness. And that is ingrained in us through Christianity mainly, but also through the society we live in. When you are saying that you at work, someone says something to you and you like, nah, that doesn't make sense. But you know that if you address it head on, there's going to be consequences that you don't really want to deal with because it has an adverse effect on your family. It's not that you're saying it to keep their mouth closed, you're saying to keep your job. But when there is nothing at risk other than somebody being upset with you, that's the very thing we need to deal with. That's the very thing we need to say. We do not rise above this fear until we face it head on. Is that clear? We have to face it head on. One of the things that I have sought to do throughout my having been called into ministry was the hardest thing to deal with are the first things I face. Everything else is child's play once you do that. The hardest thing, the thing that I least want to deal with or discuss, that's the first thing that I walk up to someone about because I want to deal with it. I don't want not to stay away from it simply because somebody's going to be upset because I said it. If that were the case, I would be quiet most of the time. So I'm done. I think it's the place to pause, Ron.
Yes, sir. Good place to pause. Okay.
That's a quick, right quick before we get off. It's like when you mentioned the workplace with you at work and you ain't nobody. I'm not saying nobody perfect, but you see how people really act or how they really not so much how they feel about, but how they act, when certain people are around. So whether it's at work and you just there and you come and you meet these people and you wrestle within yourself, okay, now, yeah, I know I'm Elohim, but I know we put emphasis, well, I'm going to say we at one time, whether it's, speaking, because now I'm in my space and I'm in my mood of, like, I don't know, you want to be bothered with this, with name, but then I think with myself, but should I say hey to this person or just keep it moving and do what I come there to do, even though I know I am Elohim, because I ain't trying to be, friends with, everybody. That's not my purpose. I treat people with, I try to treat people with, respect and everything. But when you just see how they really act towards you and this and that, it's just like you just want to be in your own little space, do what you got to do, and just get on through. If you know what I mean.
That's your decision.
Oh, okay.
That's your individual decision. What I'm talking about is doing the spiritual work.
Mm-hmm.
When you are at work, keep in mind you're not there to make friends. You're there to get a check. And if you open your mouth about things that does not pertain to your job, then you're putting your job in jeopardy. So you're putting your check in jeopardy. So you have to be wise about those things. That's all. I hope that helps you, Angel.
Yeah, it did.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your question, Angela. And anyone else that want to jot the question down or send me a text or whatever, we'll pick up there on tomorrow morning. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody have a great day and enjoyed it. Good energy. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, family.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.